Hi and welcome to another finished object video here at M1 Yarns and the Michigan Makers Podcast. I'm Jamie, the dyer and knitter behind m1yarns.com, and as I said today, this is a finished object video. This is my third completed Rhinebeck sweater for this year's New York Sheep and Wool Festival, which by the time you're watching this, I will be at, if I time everything correctly. Nonetheless, so I wanted to give you some details about this pattern because if you're considering knitting it, I have a few tips and tricks and thoughts that might prove useful. So this is the Moorland Cardigan by Tania Barley. She is an Irish knitter, designer, and this is the first pattern I've knit by her. I'd had this in my queue for a minute, and then my friend Claudia had messaged me and said that she was thinking about knitting it, and I said, oh yeah, me too, we should do a knit along, and thus that's how the M1 Steek Along was born, which is a make along all about steek and cardigans. It runs through December 31st, 2022, so if you're interested, you can join the Ravelry forum or post progress and finished object photos to social media with this hashtag for a chance to win a prize. Nonetheless, so when we were talking about knitting this pattern, I said, okay, well, here's a few initial thoughts that maybe you'll be thinking about. The pattern is written using Nutiden, which is a very blooming, loosely spun yarn. It's very unique from a lot of other yarns, and so I knew I would have to do some sort of modifications to accommodate for the fact that I really wanted to knit this in non-superwash merino, like a traditional spin that you would see a lot of indie dyers make, but this is non-superwash, held with mohair and silk, a lace weight strand of mohair silk. So I did some gauge swatching. I'm a loose knitter, and I found that going down to a US 4 was what I needed to do for my tension and my yarn selection. I think these yarns are a little bit more accessible here in the United States than the Nutiden. Of course, in the age of the internet, you can buy Nutiden online, but if you're buying something from a yarn store, this would be something closer to a lot of the readily available options. And I will say that even though I'm a yarn dyer, I chose to use undyed yarn. I have long wanted a what do you call this, ivory sweater cardigan, and so it just fit the bill. So let's see, what else can I tell you? This was my first time steeking a cardigan. I had done a practice run with a coffee cozy pattern, which you can find on my Ravelry forum. I knew I wanted this fairly fitted, and I think I knit the smallest size. I knit the sleeves obviously like a bracelet length because number one, I figured with ivory I didn't want to get the sleeves dirty or wet when I wash my hands. And I thought it looked a little bit more retro, feminine, if you will, and so I thought this was a good length. You can just see a little hint of my wrist. I could have probably, I did get gauge with, like I said, going down a few sizes, but in reality, I do tend to like my garments a little less ease, if you will. And so I haven't really worn this yet, but I feel like I might have to do some tweaking with the button placement or the tightness of the holes, which is easy to fix. It just feels a little floppy to me. Because I'm a loose knitter, I did not do the recommended, I think it was like a tubular bind off on these and here. I did a regular, like, old-fashioned, basic bind off because I wanted it tighter because I'm so loose. I don't know that that's affecting my feeling that it's floppy. I think overall it's a nice fit. It's just not a style I'm used to wearing. So bear that in mind, depending on how you like to style your knits. I will also say that my main thing that I want to get across about this pattern is that it is a very wordy pattern. It's like, I don't know how many pages, well over 12 pages. And I think that the way she describes the chart that she uses in multiple stages is very confusing, whereas she could have just, this is the difference between American designers and European designers, that Americans like everything spelled out, I think. So this is just me and my personal preference. I will say that this pattern is for quite experienced knitters for a few reasons. This is top down. As I mentioned, it's steeked. So I think you have to have a lot of knitting confidence to steek your cardigan open, because it's knit in the round, one piece, and then cut open. Then you have, at the same time as increases on the yoke at varying rates, you have this bobble detail down the arm column. You have this bobble detail down the arm column, and that is a little bit difficult to keep track of things that you're doing at the same time. After you steek, you pick up and knit your neckband, and then you knit your button band, and you have to read through those directions like 3 or 4 times before it really clicks. Of course, it's one of those that once you get knitting it, it does click for you, but I think it's important to know what you're doing ahead of time. And so with this whole pattern, I would recommend reading through it front to back a good 3 times. No matter how experienced of a knitter you are, because it is written so strangely to me. That's just my advice to you. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I picked some shell buttons from my local fabric store. If you're in the Metro Detroit area here in Michigan, Haberman's is in Clawson. It used to be in Royal Oak, and it is, it's got a nice selection of buttons, not like it used to when it was in Royal Oak. But I got these there. I love supporting small business. As you can see, I think these buttonholes are just a little, just a tad loose. I feel like I need to tighten this. But this is my first steeked cardigan, and so I think there are some lessons to be learned from this, which is why I wanted to share what I've learned so far. I maybe could have done 6 buttons instead of 5. It's too late for that. I could always add in some like little hook and eyes if I plan to wear it open. I probably will wear this. I mean, if hooks and eyes, if I plan to wear it closed, rather. I probably will honestly wear it open. Anyway, I really love the bobble details, and for years I have resisted bobbles, and now I'm kind of obsessed with them. There was a really good bobble tutorial video that I watched for this, and if I remember, I will link it below. Other than that, I really am happy with this. I'm mostly happy that I've conquered my fears of steeking, and I'm quite pleased that this is basically, apart from being a little bit, maybe both a little bit long in the body, it could have gone maybe 2 inches shorter for my liking, and maybe 2 inches less positive ease. So basically I just want something more fitted. So that's okay. I'm going to take it as it is, and I'm going to take these ideas and move it into my next steeked cardigan, which I plan to do very soon. If you do make this, or you're thinking about making it, and you have questions, feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram or Ravelry, where I am M1 Yarns, and I'd be happy to chat and help you through this. Overall, I recommend this pattern with the precaution that you should read, reread, and reread, if that makes sense. So that's it for now. Thanks for joining me for another episode of M1 Yarns and the Michigan Makers Podcast, and I'll see you next time. Bye!